Hi, welcome to day 7 of Embracing the Race, and I've got Scout here with me again. He's just sitting with me. We have somebody pressure washing the house, and it's making him a little excited. So today, day 7 is called Through the Storm, and I read the title and I said, oh, it's gonna be a good one. She starts off with the verse, Isaiah 43 verse 2. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. She starts out this one talking about how she hates to run in the rain. She'll run in clear blue sky, doesn't matter if it's cold, she'll bundle up, but she will not do rain, even if it's just a sprinkle. And she goes on to talk about how she was training for a half marathon in Nashville, and the day before the race they were predicting 95% chance of rain. And she made desperate pleas and prayers and said, oh Lord, please let the rain hold off until I'm done, and all of that jazz, and of course it didn't. So she had her poncho, was drenched even before she started. She said there was something like 30,000 runners at this particular race. So she's running her half marathon, and she's not super excited about it. And she talks about that even though the rain was drowning out what she was trying to listen to in her headphones, she could still feel in her spirit the Lord speaking to her. And this is what she said. Lisa, just as I am with you in this pouring rain, I am with you through all the storms of your life. Sometimes I calm the storm around you, but sometimes I allow you to go through it. Although you'll get wet, I promise to be with you. And it's sometimes a hard lesson to realize that it's because this world isn't perfect, we're still going to have storms, and it is completely true that through hard times, he's always with us. He is unchanging. And she goes on to say, once you've run through a constant downpour, the scattered showers don't seem to bother you as much as they did before. And that's completely true. Because I've ran in races where it's rained, and there's points where it gets really, really heavy. And it'll lighten up. It'll still actually be raining, but because it's not as hard as it was before, it really doesn't feel that bad at that point. And the same is true in our walk of faith. Once we've waddled through a heart-wrenching storm, we come out stronger on the other side. Our faith grows, our perspective changes. And growth is what I'd written next to where she had written what she felt her spirit telling her during the race was growth. And that's the thing we get from those storms that God still allows us to go through, is if we allow it to, it'll help us grow in our faith. But it's all about that perspective. You have to view it with, how can I grow from this? And she goes back to the verse that I read at the beginning, that it doesn't say if you pass through the waters, it says when. And it says in, one of the Gospels, can't remember at the moment, of course, that Jesus said that in this world we will have trouble, but that he is overcome. He tells us we'll have trouble in this world. That's how this world is. But he overcame it. He died and rose again. He overcame the harshest thing, death. And she reiterates that God is with us through all of it. Maybe you're drenched at the start line and the storm is raging. Maybe you're in the middle and you feel like you'll drown in worry and fear. No matter where you are or whatever the storm is, he promises to carry us through it. All right, the questions. Can you identify some past storms God has brought you through? Well, I'm coming up on 10-year anniversary, and I'm also a stepmom. So just between those two things, they're not crazy hurricane storm type situations, but I mean, any parent can identify with being worried about how your kids are growing up, what they're going to grow up to believe in, and not wanting them to make the same mistakes that you did, and being married, wanting to make sure that I'm being a good wife, and just typical stuff, health concerns and things like that. I'm trying to think of a good example. really the biggest storm that comes off the top of my head that I could share without betraying anybody's confidence. And I had mentioned this previously in probably a couple of the previous videos, was the period of time where I wasn't in the Word like I should have been. And that whole time just felt like a crazy storm. Like, I still believed in God and all that, but he felt incredibly far away. And everything, the smallest little bit of friction in my life felt huge. And so that it felt like a storm. And I came to realize, like I mentioned, that it was because I wasn't feeding into my faith like I should have been. And when you do that, you get that peace, you get that hope. And those little things don't blow up to seem bigger than they actually are, if that makes any sense. How can you apply the wisdom you gained from these past storms to a current storm you're in now? Well, fortunately, I don't feel like I'm in a current storm right now, aside from just what everyone else is dealing with. The biggest thing that everyone's dealing with is COVID, and wondering if things are ever going to get better. I know that my mom, hooray for my mom, has officially had both vaccines. And I know that before she had gotten all that done, was starting to go out a little bit more and all that. And I'm like, Mom, I really wish she wouldn't do this or that or whatever. But she, being a very strong woman in the faith, is like, I am not going to stop living. I will take precautions and I'll be safe. But I'm not going to stop living, and I'm going to trust God that, everything's going to be okay. And I think that is a good thing to apply to everything. Don't be reckless. God does not call us to be reckless with our life, but to trust him and to live our life abundantly like he wants us to. Like he wants us to. Not that we can do whatever we want. Okay. If you are resisting a storm, are you ready to embrace it with absolute trust in God? Like I said, not currently feeling like I'm in a particularly bad storm other than the whole COVID thing. But the storms are going to come, and I know they are. And that's why I'm really trying to do stuff like this on a very regular basis, and to keep that hope right there at the forefront of my heart. I've learned time and time again that there's nothing like having God to fight your battles. I know that that's something that's been a theme aside from COVID, just everything else going on in the world, and knowing that I have this overwhelming feeling that I'm really going to have to stand up for what I believe in sometime soon. Just with everything that's going on in politics and all of that, but I don't have to fight any of those battles alone. There's a reason why the word is called a sword. It's sharper than any two-edged sword, is the way that the word is referenced in the Bible. And that's what am really trying to get into, is I'm going to let God's word do my fighting for me. Because what I believe I didn't just come up with it. It's from his word. So let it do my fighting for me. Let God do my fighting for me. And that brings such a peace, at least for me. So. And she closes with this verse, Matthew 5:45. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. So he sees it all, the righteous and the unrighteous, the evil and the good. And I wanted to close this one. I'm already running a little bit over. Sorry. Try to keep these around 10 minutes. But when I was reading that middle part about God being there through it all, it reminded me of a song. And I wish I could sing it, but it would probably be copyright, so I'm just going to read it. It's a song called Through All of It by Colton Dixon. And I'm going to share the second verse, the bridge, and the chorus. You were there when it all came down on me, when I was blinded by my fear, and I struggled to believe. But in those unclear moments, you were the one keeping me strong. This is how my story's always gone. And this is who you are, more constant than the stars up in the sky. All these years of our lives, I look back and I see you. Right now, I still do, and I'm always going to. I have won and I have lost. I got it right sometimes, but sometimes I did not. Life's been a journey. I've seen joy, I've seen regret, and you've been my God through all of it. So that's what I leave you with today, that no matter what storm you may be in, that He's there. It's actually funny that this is what I read today. I just remembered that my husband and I this morning were talking about the story of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And we weren't talking about this particular topic, we were talking about their story. And God didn't keep them from getting thrown into the furnace, but He was there with them. There was another individual in that fire that the soldiers saw, and they weren't burned. He protected them because they were being faithful to what they knew they should be doing and not worshiping an idol, but staying faithful to God. So, and that is one of the things, as far as standing up for my faith, that I'm clinging to, is that story, and to be like those biblical heroes and to not be afraid. So I hope everyone's doing great. I know that at least over in Texas, I think the weather's starting to get a little bit better. So I'm happy to hear all that. And yeah, so thank you for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow.